gonna know about it. So at
So
least
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will begin with approval of the agenda. I have no additions or corrections.
So moved.
Support. We'll move on to approval of the consent
Now we got
agenda.
to vote first.
Oh, thanks.
Nice.
All in favor say yes.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Approved. We will move on now to the approval of the consent agenda. This includes the board minutes, payment of the invoices, and the first read of Neola policies as listed below. Do I have to read through all of those?
No, I can summarize if you want real quick.
Okay.
So the policies include first the update of the orientation in the bylaws. That was so that we can allow to have the new orientation process that we had, the ad hoc committee had talked about. And then the updates to the Neola policies include the ones at the bottom, which are a long list, are due to the Edgar revision. So those are no-brainer updates, ones that we have to do to be in compliance with policies. The ones up above, we covered in the policy subcommittee and include employment of personnel for co-curricular activities, opioid antagonists, also known as Narcan, student accidents, student conduct, artificial intelligence, and criminal justice information security.
So move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to highlights.
Am I safe to unplug?
I'm a leader.
We have a few highlights tonight, which is awesome. And we're thankful that Jared is here in case I screw this up. Which one? There we go. Oh, there we go. So tonight, this presentation has been a long time in the making. Our district safety team has been working almost a year now on updating our EOP, our emergency operation procedures. And so basically what we did during that year is we reviewed our current EOP and saw what was working well, what was still within best practices. And then we also looked at some other counties' EOPs to see what they were doing. And then finally, the Michigan Office of School Safety came out with their template right before the start of this school year, which was very helpful. Included a lot of what we already were planning to include, cleaned up a few things, added some updates such as updates to the cardiac plan for some things that will go into effect next year. For the school year of 25-26. And then we also made sure to include some of the additional safety measures that we have put in place, such as Alice, which we have the trainers who now our entire staff has been trained, and once approved, we'll be moving on to working with students and incorporating that into our drills. That's also what we had the parent university on to go over what that meant so that parents were informed. So the EOP is not what is up on the screen. That is not something we want to share throughout the community and on YouTube, because it includes a lot of how we would handle things in a crisis situation. And those will really stay with the administrative team. The board has a copy that you've been able to review as well. It really is, the EOP is essentially a living document. It is reviewed annually, even though our district safety team is really going to be reviewing it much more often than that. So as we get more information on any changes for best practice, we would implement those into the plan, and then we record what those changes are and when they occurred. that keeps all the administrative team and the board informed of what changes are happening and when. But that's the reason why those in the audience and those at home won't get to see the EOP, is just that also then make sure that our district is as safe and secure as it can be. But what you do see is what we are also asking for the board to approve tonight. And this is the standard response protocol. This is something that was developed with the I Love You Guys Foundation. It is used in many states, many districts, and then also it's used in some businesses as well. And this is supported by not only the Office of School Safety here in Michigan, but it's also supported by the Michigan State Police. And what this aimed to do was create a document of common language so that everybody responding to a crisis was saying the same things, meaning the same things, and everybody then knew what those things meant. So most of it is very similar to what we've had in place. There are a few tweaks. This has been sent out to parents, will be sent out to parents again coming up in my November SMORE as well, with some highlights of what that really means for parents. So hold is for when you are keeping students within their classroom. That might be that we had a student who got sick out in the hallway. I know when I was at Eagle Lake today, there were some students getting sick. This would be what you could use, especially at more of our middle school and high school level, to say, hey, hold, everybody stay in their classrooms. Then we can make sure that the hallways are cleaned up, that whoever was sick can be taken back. This can also be for medical emergencies, which we've had pop up in the past as well too, that just keeps everybody safe and allows whatever needs to be attended to. So very minimal. This isn't something typically we would then notify parents at home. A lot of times students might not even know, that it's because it's not going to change their day in most cases, unless the hold was to happen at the end of the day. And then there would be that notification. Secure will be a change. So secure, there's two parts of secure. So you can have secure like we had the other week when we had a police chase going on somewhat close by, where there was still controlled access. So parents could come up, the school doors were locked, but they could buzz in to get their student. We could also release students out. That's one form of secure. The other form of secure is that no one comes in and no one comes out. So say there was a hazmat situation where even having parents out to come get their kids wouldn't be safe. Then that would be a secure where we kept students in, business as usual inside, but we would not be releasing kids. So anytime secure is used, there'll be a notification from our office that will go out to parents so they know what happened during the day, or if there's a secure where parents won't be able to access their kids, that would go out right away so that parents were aware of that. Lockdown gets more secure and more severe. We're used to practicing for lockdown. That's where business as usual is not going on inside of the building. Everybody is staying out of sight. This is also where Alice would come into play if there was an intruder or an active shooter, where then that empowers the teachers and at some levels the students to make those decisions to keep themselves safe. So that would occur at the lockdown. Evacuate could be for a number of different reasons as well too. And then a location would be specified. This might be a rally point, or it might just be that we need to evacuate the building and go to another one of our buildings in district, depending on what it's for. And then shelter, that's what's used for, for our traditional tornado drills. We don't have any earthquakes, thankfully, or tsunamis, but those weather-related incidences could also be for a hazmat situation. If there was a train derailment or something, that could be a time shelter was also used. So all of these the sheet will be posted in every classroom in the district. If you've gone into a district that is using, thank you, Becky, that is using I Love You Guys, you'll see all of these posted. We want this information to be known by everybody. We want students and staff to know what to do. So that's why this is public information on how things are handled. So along with the SRP, we also have from the I Love You Guys Foundation, the SRM, which is the standard reunification method. Those of you who were here for the fire at Eagle Lake. We got to practice our prior reunification procedures. We learned a lot from that practice. And then we also have now reviewed the I Love You Guys reunification method, which is what we're looking to adopt. It's basically what we were doing. It takes it a step further and has already made, sheets that have been tested where parents would have to fill those out when they get there. It emphasizes that parents need to come with their photo identification, which our parents handled really well during our reunification with Eagle Lake. It also reminds parents that they need to have those emergency contacts updated within the school because we're not going to release to someone who is not listed on those sheets. So both of the SRM, the SRP, along with the EOP are kind of our handbook of what to do. But that's not the only things that we have been focusing on for safety and through this process. We have the addition of Officer Essere for the last couple of years, who has really helped with this process, but has also just helped on the day-to-day in the schools. We have also had the bomb squad come in to review how we handle bomb threats, how we handle if there was to be an explosive device found in the building, kind of that reminder that our buildings are very safe and secure. And some procedures to go along with that. So we've had them in meeting with our administrative team. Then we have also implemented the CSTAG threat assessment process as well. We have trained teams for every building, also district-wide. We have a couple new administrators who are in the process of getting trained so that they will be part of those threat assessment teams as well. And that is one of the things that was really noted by our outside security assessor who came in. And he was really pleased to see that we had a process, that the individuals were trained, and that we had teams that we were using, which that's another thing we've done is had the outside safety assessment. We're still waiting to get back the findings from that, which will be nice to see, where we're at on the things that we have in process and the things that we still continue to need to focus on. More grant funding was made available, so we're going to be able to have an event assessment as well too. So taking a look at our athletic facilities as well as our PAC. So for those of you who were at the awesome play this weekend, they'll be able to take a look at, okay, what would happen what do we need to do if something were to happen while we had people in the PAC? So those are some things that we're continuing to do as well through the whole update to our EOP. So one last thing is we also are to practice with the EOP at the administrative level, and then we'll also be with the staff level, is we're starting to do tabletop activities. So we did that last week with the whole administrative team. Officer Essere led us through one of those. We're going to continue to do those and then also practice them at the building level. They're a really low stake way to work through what works in our EOP, to think through some things we might not have thought about, and then go back and see if there's any changes we need to make. I do want to give a huge thanks to our whole district administrative safety team, which is Officer Essere, Chris Neff, Gail Enders, Katie Braxma, James Zebra, Mike Dandrin, Ashley Stein, Laura Blaylock, Larry Hanks, Jody Bushrow, Jared Melander, and Ken Greenidge is our two newest members who took the place for Deb Beecraft and Brian Clements, who retired last year. So they put a tremendous amount of work into this, not only getting trained in all of these things, gathering all this information, but putting it together in the best, most user-friendly way possible. After the board approves the EOP for the district, then that will go on to each of the buildings, and they will make building-specific EOPs with that same template, but placing in things like the building incident command structure instead of the district incident command structure. Any questions on any of the safety things? Okay. Well, thank you very much. And thank you to the district safety team.
Mhm.
Thank you. Moving on to updates from special education.
Oh, sorry. Wrong one, not Melissa.
Good evening. I'm Katie Braxman. I'm the Special Education Director I have Mrs. Kim Sawyer, Miss Molly High, and Mr. James Motz to talk to you about an experience that our high school transition class got to take this last Friday the 15th to MICTI, which is the Michigan Career and Technical Institute. The students were able to explore a variety of career paths and technical fields that are available at MICTI. So I'm going to turn it over to the people who attended the field trip.
I'm just pamphlets that we took from MICTI that kind of explains all the different programs that
Thank
are
you.
available to our kids.
Thank you.
I'm Kim Sawyer from the high school, and my colleague, Mr. Motz, is passing out the pamphlets from MICTI. We want to share our appreciation for the approval and funding that was provided for us to take 7 of our students on a annual trip to see the facilities. Michigan Career Technical Institute, the most closely I can pair with, is very similar to the Elkhart Area Career Center, but it is for after graduation. It's post-secondary. So our IEP students, individualized education plan students, have a transition plan at the high school. And there are 3 different pieces to it. There's the education, employment, and individualized adult daily living skills. And so that is one of, I think, our favorite pieces of the IEP is the transition plan. This gave 7 of our students the opportunity to see what kind of post-secondary opportunities are available, and the funding is very minimal for them to go to this location. So it is an opportunity that some students wouldn't get because they might attribute a lot of financial aid, or maybe students have never been with diploma parents or anyone that had went to college in their life. And we saw a lot of positives happen from our trip. I just want to share 2 things, and then I'm going to pass it off. One of the students, so quiet and very behind the scenes in every class, the instructor, we had a tour of each area, and the tour person said, "Is anyone interested in this area?" And his eyes brightened up and sparkled, and he said, "I am," and he went pushing right forward. He said, "Get up there and listen and follow him around." And he did. He was right there, interested in everything. And that was electrical, industrial machines. And so it was about machines and electronics. And then the other story was a girl that was interested in daycare. That's all she would consider. But we had her link in the possibility of running her own business. And doing retail marketing was one of the areas there. And if she would learn some of the business aspects, she could run her own business in daycare in the future. So, Jim, do you want to talk about how we picked them and your stories that you heard from the students?
Sure. Anyway, like she said, this is kind of like the Career Center, but I kind of equate this to the Career Center on steroids. It's huge. They have dorms there. They have more options available. And it's the kids that aren't going to go to college, that really aren't ready for the workforce quite yet. So this is a great transition program for them. I have a student that I'm really worried about him dropping out, really. And we took him here as a sophomore. Usually we like to do a junior seniors to take him there to see what's going on for the next level. But we took him there as a sophomore, and immediately when he went into the autos parts, he said, "Man, I love this smell."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, hooked, got him now. So I think that gave him a chance, even if he's not succeeding so much at the academic level. Now he has something to look forward to and go there, and he has an opportunity to be successful in a different route than maybe he previously thought. And it's really all thanks to Molly High. She's the one that introduced us all to this from the ISD. So get to know her. She is an awesome person, and she helps us out tremendously. So Molly.
Well, I don't know how I can lead that. So I'm Molly High, as you said, the transition coordinator for Heritage Southwest ISD. And my job is to help students with disabilities, IEPs, ages 14 up to 26 at North Point Center. So I got to take these students with me, but before that, I got to work with a lot of them through the pre-employment training program that Michigan Rehab Services provides. This is all state-funded programming. A lot of the students participated in our summer work program where they get paid to do job training for 6 weeks, and they work for 3 days, and then they come to a class and they talk about, you know, what things worked, what things didn't work, and those kind of things. So I met one of the several students, but one of the students that went on the trip, I had to work with her to get her ID, to get her social security card and things so that she could participate in the summer program. So we really got to know each other well. And she talked about wanting to break the cycle of her family and that none of them went to college. And there's a lot of poverty and there's drugs and different things like that. So I built a relationship with her, and she went on this trip. And after she saw it, she was just so excited to be able to go there. And she was talking to another student about how that they both went there and how they could hang out with each other. And the one said, maybe we could even be suite mates because they each have their own dorm and then they share a bathroom. So it was really exciting to see them, you know, students that don't normally get excited and have goals like that, to see them kind of see their future and be excited about that and then come back and tell other people. So
Just to have the other options too. They didn't know that they had this option. I didn't know they had this option. So it's just a wonderful thing to have other options.
And it's all funded through Michigan Rehab Services. The only money they really have to have is for laundry, and then if they want extra snacks in the evening or extra outings and things like that. But it's all paid for through the state-funded program. So.
Located in Plainwell, so just north of here, close enough that it is a new avenue for students after high school, but they could still come home on weekends if they felt that need to come back. But they do have outings on the weekends that they organize, lots of extracurricular. They have boating because it's on a lake, Pine Lake, bowling,
Archery.
Mm-hmm.
Love the archery.
Yep, basketball. They have a medical professional on staff. Students with cognitive impairments do not go there. They have to have a certain level of ability for math and reading. And if they don't meet that level in the area that they choose, they do some remediation throughout the summer to help them through. 80% job placement ratio, which is something to really be proud of. And it is, I think in the pamphlet, you'll see it's one of the top producing in the United States for rehabilitation employment services. So we're very fortunate to have it at Michigan. There's a waiting line, you said.
Yeah, there's a
For
waiting
some of the
list, yeah.
areas
So,
to get in.
and I've already come back and done 2 applications with students at Edwardsburg because they were so excited and wanted to get on that waiting list for when they graduated.
And how long is the program?
Good question. Yeah. So each program has different levels of certification, and each period that they're in, I think, is 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So they do 10 weeks and they can get a certification. Then they can go to the next level, like culinary. They can start with like just basic kitchen work, and then they can get to where they learn pastry chef and specialties like that. So.
And they have to qualify for the next term. So it's not guaranteed. They have to make certain levels of competency.
Yep.
That's great.
And they all take a career class too. So they learn how to do interview skills and resumes and things like that.
They have gardening, landscaping. They do all aspects of lawn care and landscaping, mostly lawn care there. And there is a pesticide certification test that you take to spray fertilizers and Roundup weed killers. And they have worked something out with MSU. They come in and read the test to them. And that's not done anywhere else. They read the test to the students if necessary.
And some of the pamphlets that were passed out, one was for the college. Well, it's like a trade school. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, not college, but the students feel like it's college. And then I included some pamphlets about Michigan Rehab Services and what they provide, because in her transition program, they're also doing the pre-employment classes for the students.
Graduation is a requirement or not a
It
requirement?
is not a requirement. No, they have to have certain reading levels and math skills for the different programs. And it starts lower level, like janitorial and landscaping, and then up to some medical stuff.
Pharmaceutical tech.
Mhm.
Is 18 years, is that the requirement, they must be 18. So how far ahead of that, if there's a waiting list, how far ahead of?
It just depends on the program. So we try to get them involved with that pre-employment class, and they do a pre-employment application with Michigan Rehab Services, so that kind of gets the ball rolling. And then once they know that they're interested, we can do the application. There's some things that need to happen before they can go there, like updated IQ testing, physicals, things like that.
TB test.
Yeah, TB testing that Michigan Rehab Services will pay for. So the sooner we can get those things done and turned into the college, the sooner they can get on those lists. And there's also a summer program that's kind of like a camp where they get to go and stay for a week and try out the different areas, programs, and also see how they do staying away from home, if they get themselves up, because they have to be pretty independent to stay. Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So this is going to get the tech side of it going, and she's going to run the vast majority of the presentation. So Melissa's a relatively new Eddie to us this year, but she did make it through homecoming, so she's an Eddie forever. Since coming to us, she has brought a lot of really good ideas from previous district that she's been at, which was over in the Penn district. And with those ideas means a lot more work. And I say that lightheartedly, though, because it's okay. Every idea that she has is very student driven, right? About providing maybe some experiences that we've never delved into at the middle school level that other middle schools have been doing for a really long time. So she is here to talk about EF Tours, which our high school new Spanish teacher is bringing that to the high school this year. And then looking at what that might look like if we drilled that down into offering some middle school experience.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Again, I'm Melissa Szymanski, and this is my first year. And I have to say, I love being an Eddie. So it's been amazing. Everybody is just amazing and so exclusive and inclusive here. So I came from PHM, and actually this past summer, I did this exact Japan tour, and I've been on a couple other tours with our middle school students at Penn Harris Madison. And it was an amazing experience. My kids did it. And when I first heard about them, I'm like, I'll never let my kids travel out of the country. You're crazy. And now I'm like, okay, I can't not have you have this experience. And to offer it to our students, I'm like, this has to be something our students are able to do too. So we are looking at a potential Japan trip in summer of 2026. Which would be to Osaka, Kyoto, Tokyo, and it'd be 9 days long. This is just kind of an overview of what we'll talk about today. So EF Tours is who I've worked with and who many other school districts in the area have worked with, and they've been around for 55 years. They are family owned. They are world leader international education staff. They have staff on the ground in all 50 countries. So anytime we need anything, if we needed anything at all, they would be there to support us. And I'll go into that a little bit more. Some of the stats regarding traveling. So basically, what's the educational benefits of traveling? So it's hands-on learning. It opens and broadens our students' perspective of the world and gives them, they know that it's not just us, there's a bigger world out there. And then also new ways of learning. And then the tour complements academic curriculum. And I can answer any more questions about that as well. So for this trip, we would do 9 days, like I said. So we do 1 night in Osaka, 2 nights in Kyoto, and then 4 nights in Tokyo. And then in those places, we do things like visit the temples. There's the ramen noodle museum we go to. We go to a place where there's deer. The deer it's a deer park in Nara where they bow to you. It's a fascinating. There's so many fascinating layers and experiences the students will be able to experience. So we're looking at the date range anywhere between July 11th to July 25th. We request the dates July 14th to the 22nd but they ask us to get a range. And our tour guide is saying, our tour director is saying that usually you get the exact dates that you request. So 2 months within, we'll know the exact dates. We're looking at July 24th or July 14th to the 22nd. And that's, we'll probably get those dates, but we have to have that leeway there as well. As far as liability, this is a big question that came up. So we would be completely covered under EF Tours. They're under their $50 million general liability policy. All the chaperones who went would be covered, our students and staff. The school would carry no liability for the trip. And then also as far as support, we would have 24/7 support. And we ran into this on our tour this summer where our luggage got lost. And so EF Tours was right there helping us. So we got funded money to buy clothes. So we went shopping in Japan, got clothes because I lost my luggage for, I think, 6 of the 10 days. But I didn't feel it. I always feared that. And it didn't feel too scary because actually I got to shop at these fun places in Japan. So so that's covered under their insurance. And then, let's see. Oops, let me go back here. Sorry, guys. As far as cost, this is a rough, if we would have rolled out the tour a month ago, this would be a roughly the cost that would have been biweekly, monthly, or if you paid in full. So it's the biweekly payments, so they have 3 options. They can do the biweekly, monthly, or pay in full. The biweekly payments will probably be around $130. And so it'll go up a little bit because we're rolling it out later. And so again, this will be summer of 2026. So families do have time to pay this. And when I first heard about these tours for my own children, I was like, I'm a single mom. There's no way I'm going to be able to afford something like this. It really is doable. And there's options for fundraising. There's options for students. Like my son was like, okay, I'll cut everybody's grass. So he really grew up during that time. His was an Italy trip. And he was like, okay, I'm going to cut everybody's grass. And he actually saw him rise to the occasion and start cutting grasses and start saving his money. And so it grew him in that area too, trying to save because he really wanted this trip. We sent out a soft survey last week just to kind of get some feedback and feel for our community and see where everybody was at. And so these are just some of the things that the feedback we got from parents. Wow, sounds like an amazing trip, great opportunity for our students. Any exposure to another culture, language, society structure only enhances and builds upon a child's life experience. I'm all for it. I believe being able to experience different cultures and learning different ways of day-to-day would be great experience for many children. And some of the questions that we got and concerns basically was the cost and the age. So we didn't put when the trip was when we sent out the survey, and some of them were thinking we'd take our 6th graders. So that we would offer it to current 5th, 6th, and 7th graders. So by the time the trip came around, they'd be 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. And that's typically the range that they take for middle school. So they would be end of their 7th grade, end of their 8th, or end of their 6th, end of their 7th, and end of their 8th grade year. And then this is just some more feedback from EF, from people that they've heard. And this is in the presentation. And then I'll let Josh speak on that.
Yeah, I'll get to some of the soft survey statistics. When she first brought this to me, I was thinking a couple of things. Okay, we're gonna consider maybe taking those schools out of the country. Sure that. And I thought, well, maybe this is something that we could maybe piggyback off of the high school and say, well, why don't we just try it out by going with them? But when we talk to EF Tours, they highly recommend you keep those age groups separate, that you don't blend high school and younger kids. So then it came down to, okay, and Melissa had to convince me this has always went well at the middle school I've been at. It can be done. Okay, so if they can do it there, our kids can do it too, right? So I'm kind of slowly getting over that hurdle for myself. And then the next thing was I said, listen, we have a community where kids are really spread thin. They do a lot of travel things in summer. Would we even get the participation? So we did not roll out when. That was one of the few items that were left off. But the first question was just, would you be interested in travel abroad opportunities. I got to be honest, a 74.2% to the yes out of 132 responses was not what I expected. That's quite a bit higher, right? But then when you look at the next question, when you throw in the cost, you can see that goes down by about 10%. Now that you know how expensive this could be, right? Because it's a 9-day trip going out of the country. That did, eliminate some people in terms of, I don't know if that's something that's feasible. And if I did do that, I'd probably want to go, and then their cost on top of mine probably isn't going to work. So definitely saw a little bit of a drop off, but that's still 65.9% is quite a bit higher. And then when we looked at the destination, our first one, we'd probably look at Japan. It dropped another almost 10%, right? And I could see that if we were to do this over the course of years, that would fluctuate depending on the destination, right? It could go up and down. Some destinations just aren't for some people, and so on and so forth. But 53.8% out of 132, I think that was around 63 potential students, right? Somewhere around, my math's not good. I was a history teacher. So, I mean, that right there says that there's a pretty strong interest, which is why we chose to try to bring it to the school and say we would love for this to be connected with the school, so that way we could properly get advertisement and things like that to draw those families in. Again, the liability does not shift to the school; it's all on the tours. So, I believe that wraps up.
Yeah. Any questions?
How does this tie in with our DC trip?
So DC right now is on hold because our long-standing DC trip advisor in this crowd right now is not going to be taking that on moving forward. So we'll have to have maybe somebody in the department that's ready to take that over. That would be probably still a June trip, most likely. And we would probably always try to hit July for a couple of reasons. One, we're going to rely on probably some hopefully staff members that would be interested in doing some chaperoning. It gives them some time out of the building, away from with their families before committing to something like 9 days out of the country. So
I will say too that the way it's been done, that I've seen it in the past, they still do the DC trips like at Penn Harris Madison. Yeah. So my son went to DC actually, and then he went to Italy. Yeah. He was able to do both that year, fortunately.
And one of the things that I know I talked to Melissa about was making sure we're never stepping on any toes at the high school. We have to be in constant communication with the high school down the road vision to where we're not offering an experience that's going to take away from something that they have had planned for the same group of kids as they get older.
Would there be any kind of, like when you talk about Japan, we don't teach Japanese, or are we doing anything culturally with Japanese as far as, would it tie into our education at all?
This particular trip, I mean, probably not to a deep level. Okay. Like if we talk about world history, it's in 7th grade world history and things like that. Not in the middle school curriculum per se. I mean, it's the way we look at this is probably like I see with my own kids. For those of us that really commit to travel, taking our kids to different places and seeing that, I just know how much more well-rounded they are in this classroom setting period, when certain topics come up. So
even things like that I didn't even think about, like learning how other people live, right? And then just, Japan is such a clean country. Like when I came back, it made me rethink how I do, like how I even take care of my classroom or my school, like even things that aren't necessarily tied directly to the curriculum, but it makes you think, okay, how am I taking care of my schoolwork? How am I, because the way the whole country is just like, it has this energy of like just peacefulness, and it's so clean. They don't even have trash cans, but there's no trash on the floor either. And there's not public trash cans. So you have to put it in a baggie. Everybody carries it in a baggie. So things you come back and bring, and you're like, okay, so I want to do better in my space, in my country. Like they're taking care of their country, and that was amazing to learn that. Now I want to come back and take care of my country and my school. So things like that too. We learn that we don't realize,
And fast forward 10 years, I mean, there could be multiple different destinations, and you learn something new from each one of them.
How many students would you be thinking?
Well, if you ask her, 100.
The ones I've gone on we've had like 150 or so. And,
wow.
and I'm like,
if we have great chaperones and we have to vet these students and make sure they have the grades and the behavior, they can't have discipline, write-ups or anything like that. And so we really just make sure we vet them and prepared, that we're really prepared. And so, I mean, my numbers, I'm comfortable with 100, but we're not going to close it off to people. I feel like,
I prefer to start out with less.
and for every 6 students, you have a chaperone.
Okay. I was
So
gonna ask
that
That's
it's a
the
6-to-1
6-to-1
ratio.
6-to-1.
Yeah.
What's the difference between this and World Strides?
I haven't worked with World Strides, and I haven't known anybody personally who's worked with World Strides. I'm comfortable with EF, and
Okay.
so that's
I know
don't
World Strides has done almost everything else that we've been tagged with at Edwardsburg. I didn't know if there was a reason why EF compared to them, or if it's a benefit of one over the other.
I sat through Cordenhurst's at the high school with my junior, and he said he's used some other companies throughout 26 years of doing it, and very quickly kept returning to EF tours, and said that's especially when you're traveling internationally, it's just one of the best supports. And she mentioned the 24/7. Well, like he's tapped into some of those things. Flights get changed, and they're so responsive. So that just seems to be one of the most reputable if you're going out abroad. Any other questions?
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank
you.
Items of business, hiring of personnel. Mr. Jordan.
All right. So I have the pleasure to introduce to you Miss Brooke Petro. She's is being recommended for the 5th grade position at the intermediate school. She grew up in Northeast Ohio and holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Defiance College. And she's got endorsements in integrated science, mathematics, middle level specialization, and upper elementary education. She comes to us most recently from South Harrison Middle School in West Virginia, where she had taught 7th grade science. So over the summer, she and her husband Josh had their first child, Corbin, and they were here earlier if you happen to see him. And he's the happiest baby I've seen. He's always smiling when I see him. In the middle schools, or in the middle of September, her husband was offered a job at Bethel University, which brought them back to this area. And it helped them be closer to family. She said that she feels blessed with the way things have fallen into place during this move, and she is excited and grateful to join the Edwardsburg community. Go Eddies. I highly recommend Miss Brooke Petro for the 5th grade position at the intermediate.
Thank you. We have a motion.
So moved.
Comments or discussion? All in favor of hiring Ms. Petro? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Welcome. We're happy to have you. Would you like to say anything?
Well, just thank you. I've had a great experience so far through the hiring process, and first couple of weeks being in the building and with the kids, it's been great. And middle of the year has been like kind of doing ground running, but it's been a great experience so far. Thank you.
Good. Welcome. Thank you. High school roofing discussion.
Okay, so if you remember back to when we were discussing bond language, and we made sure that our bond language included being able to reimburse ourselves for any bond project that we started prior to receiving all of the bond funds. So we are coming back to the board to have that approved. In order to do that, we have to have a motion from the board approving the transfer of the funds we use to pay for the PAC sections A, B, and C, and the high school roofing section N. We have to have this done within 60 days of our payment, and our last payment for the roof was on October 29th. So this would go back into the PIF. So any money that is spent out of the PIF has to stay within the PIF. So we couldn't go back into general fund. However, back in the PIF, then the board can decide what those funds will be used for moving forward to make any improvement that we need to our buildings. So that's the background on this item.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Comments or discussion? This is a roll call vote. Tony?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Natalie, yes. Justin?
Yes.
And Tammy?
Yes.
Moving on to the emergency operation plan, as presented earlier.
I'll move to, I'll move for the EOP plan to be supported by the board.
Support.
Comments or discussion?
I would say the only thing that Courtney said that I think is important, that's a living document. So I think it's kind of critical and important, and we all know that it will be. It's not just like, we proved it, done.
Yeah.
So
So anytime there's any changes, I'll send
Yes.
that update to the board.
Well, I'm sure like when you do your tabletops, that's when you come
Yep.
across different hiccups.
yeah.
Yep,
so
and that's, we added a few, we added which this can be public, we added the railroad markers after doing our last tabletop, is having just good to have on hand to be able to identify the different railroad markers on where we're at.
No, I think that's just critical. You had made a point of that. I just wanted to reiterate that to everybody that will continue to be, but super good.
We will take a vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Reports. Superintendent.
Okay, back to me. Lots of good stuff. So it's been almost a month now, but I wanted to publicly recognize at the board meeting that we had our first support staff person of the month in November. We've partnered with Culver's of Granger, Elkhart, and Mishawaka to be able to give a little something as an acknowledgement. So our first recipient was Miss Molly out at Eagle Lake, who does a phenomenal job and goes far above just her custodial duties. She is pretty much everywhere. All the kids know her, all the staff love her. And we're just excited that we were able to come and surprise her. Mrs. Baker graciously allowed us into her classroom to fake a cereal spill that Molly had to come down to attend to. None of the kids knew what was going on. So to have a group of second graders, Leo was there, and to have her walk in and then be surprised. Chelsea was able to be there along with Culver's, and so was her nominee, our nominator, Lacey Parsons. And Lacey, I'm just going to read real quick because this sums up Molly to a T. She said, Molly is the glue that holds us all together at Eagle Lake. She has the biggest heart and makes us all laugh on the daily. She is a listening ear and a wonderful friend, from cleaning up milk spills to having dance off with the students. Miss Molly does it all. She is such a wonderful human, and we are so lucky to have her. She jumps in wherever and whenever is needed and never thinks twice about it. I think being there for all Eddies is what makes her exceptional. So we just were very excited that we got to recognize her. And she was our first one, and it was through a Google form that was sent out. No one knew what it was for, to send in people that they thought were exceptional Eddies. So it made it even cooler that no one knew that, recognition was going to come from that. But our next surprise recipient will be coming up here in December. I'll let the board know who that's going to be and when it's going to be, so that if you're able to break away at all and come in and join in the little bit of a celebration. But that was the first really good thing this last month. Another great thing was the theater production. For those of you who got to see it over the weekend, A Wrinkle in Time. Our students just blow me out of the water every time I see them. I forget that I'm watching high schoolers up front. And Kyle Runland and Catherine Wood and Emma Hurley, with her first production being the PAC coordinator, just did a phenomenal job. So it was really great to see the entire cast and crew. A quick bond update. We are still in the design phase, but we're getting a little closer to having all of those set. a big thank you to the entire administrative team who has sat through multiple meetings, multiple attempts at different designs. The biggest one we're really working to get right is that pickup and drop off loops for the intermediate and primary, because we know that all of our families are counting on us for that. That design has changed many times. So we're hoping we're a little bit closer and we'll be able to share that out with the board on what they have come up with this point, which should get all traffic off of Section Street and should move cars quicker and allow for staff to get where they need to go, and hopefully alleviate the concern with middle school athletics during that time of day too. So it's a big, tall order. We told them no pressure, but this is the one thing they have to get absolutely perfect. We've also been working on the secure vestibule designs for all of the buildings. Some are an easy fix, such as Eagle Lake, which requires minor renovations. Others, like the middle school, are requiring moving the office and a lot larger renovations, but in the end will benefit even more people, including 2 new special ed spaces that will come out of that because we're going to be taking over their space for the main office at the middle school. So working on that. Some roofing work will be done this summer as well too. They're figuring out what pairs best with the secure vestibule projects on having that. Eagle Lake will be getting a huge upgrade to their bathrooms, and including some of the plumbing that will hopefully alleviate some of the issues we've had there. And then all new flooring, which if you've been through Eagle Lake lately, that carpet throughout the whole building is really hard to maintain and is definitely showing its age. So there will be some updates as well there. So lots of exciting things going on. Looking forward to being able to actually see the work get started a little bit closer to the end of the school year, and then have our community see how the schools are really going to benefit, and our students especially from their supporting of the bond. Also want to mention that Kim Bartz was named the Wolverine Conference Tennis Coach of the Year, which was awesome. That at the same time, Kevin Bartz was recognized with the Distinguished Service Award this last month. So more good news there. We will have a strategic plan update for the board next month. I know the subcommittees are all meeting and working on where we're headed this year with the strategic plan. So that will be at the December meeting, which will be over at the PAC. And then we are supporting the chamber again by participating in the Cookie Walk on December 5th. So there is a pre-sale this year. And there's even more local places that are having cookies. So if you want to get out and see all of our local businesses, including the school, it's really great. Gail and I sat and did it last year and got to talk with a whole bunch of community members, which was a lot of fun. And we got cookies, so even better. But that's all I have.
Thank you. Subcommittee reports.
The finance committee met, but it was pretty much all that preliminary stuff for construction. But it's nice to see like deadlines. I like that.
Policy committee met, and it was just the Neola updates, nothing extra there. And then curriculum met for our first meeting for health and sex ed updates. This one's a little different than the others because there are more requirements by the state. So we have to have parents involved, clergy, and health professionals, and it's a multi-meeting step process. So we had our very first one that presented basically a curriculum that's used in 38 states, and everybody that attended was given access to review that material. And that's just the first step, is kind of seeing what the option is.
Would that be going in for next year?
The goal is for it to be implemented, yes, next year. No big changes to it, really, mostly just updating some of the materials to things that are from the last.
That aren't on VHS tape.
Yeah. Yep. Several of the grades are already using the current curriculum, so.
And the curriculum is part of the review process. There'll be times for anybody in the community, for parents to come in and review it prior to coming to the board.
Yes, well, that's part of the multi-step process. That's different than the others. Yeah. Questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
You too. You traveling?
Absolutely. From my
Traveling from your. I was just gonna ask. What was he gonna say with that? From my.
Like on Thursday or
and
Friday.
for your nap and
Yeah.
then back out again and then back.